Hey, everyone, and welcome to the series premiere of Pickswise Playbook. I am your host, Chris Rose, joined as always by our better extraordinaire, the one and only Jared Smith. Jared, how are you?
Oh, lovely. It's a beautiful, the NFL is back, so it's really great outside. I think you could smell the fall in the air, right?
Oh, yeah, this guy loves it. He loved it up at Princeton. He loved it in the NFL for 7 seasons. He played with Washington. He played with Dallas. He played with Buffalo, Cleveland, New England, and Washington loved him so much they brought him back to retire up there. Ross Tucker. Hello, Ross. How are you?
Chris, I'm doing great. I love that you said joined as always. This is our first show. What do you mean as always? It's literally our first show.
Because I have that much confidence in the success of the show. So why not lay the groundwork like that?
I love it. Love this time of year. Love the weather. I will say this. I also like the weather when I wear stuff like what Jared's wearing, but I call that November.
Yeah.
Okay, that in November, I would be wearing a quarter zip like Jared.
I keep the air conditioning really low in my apartment, so it's nice, and I like to be really cold and then bundle up with some nice blankets at night. So it's very chilly here in the crib.
You guys are getting chummy already. I love it. All right, so Pickswise Playbook. We're here each and every week to satisfy your NFL hunger in the gambling space. And really, Jared, we've seen it increase exponentially over the last few years. So we are here for the people that feel like they're experts. We are here for the people that love NFL football and want to maybe make it more interesting on Thursday, on Sunday, and Monday, right?
Yeah, and I think the NFL is a different beast than betting any other sport. Because of the shortness of the season, there's more of a sense of urgency to get involved very early, whereas Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, the season's very long, 6, 7 months long, and you have an opportunity to get in a little bit later. But in the NFL, the lines get very sharp later in the year. So that sense of urgency and, of course, the excitement. The NFL is king. That's why we're hopping in.
Ross, how do we help people bet better from your angle, having been in the trenches?
Well, and let me just say this too, Chris. I got involved in this probably 5 or 6 years ago, and it makes the games so much better. I mean, the games are already amazing. You guys know me. I broadcast a lot of games. Like, I love football, but, man, if it's like a Thursday night Jags Titans game or whatever it is, right, it is unbelievable.
Yep.
How much more of an interest you have in the game if you've got a bet on the game. It just makes it a lot more entertaining. And I don't know if it's dumb luck or what, Chris, but I've got a pretty good track record over the last 5 years. And it'll be fun because, Jared obviously knows all the betting stuff and the numbers and the trends and all that stuff. I primarily go by what I know about the two teams, what I think about the teams, the coaches, the players, the game. So I guess I feel like I go for more the situational betting. It's a bad spot. It's a good spot. The X's and O's. Jared has the numbers. We should be a pretty good combo, hopefully.
I agree.
All right,
I love it. Together. The marriage.
It's like Reese's peanut butter cups a little bit. That's great. I don't know which one of you chocolate, which one's the peanut butter, but we'll figure that out over the next 18 weeks of the regular season, then into the playoffs. Today, we're going to be focusing. It's all about the futures. This is a time to play it. We're going to help you out there. Our favorite week 1 bets as well. And we're going to focus as well on all 3 primetime matchups, starting with the big one down in Tampa, Cowboys and Bucs tonight. It's going to be a blast. Let's start out with the industry investments. And this is where we're looking at the future plays. And let's find some value here, guys. But first things first. For the first time ever, we're going to have a 17-week regular season. How does that affect the way you play things, Jared, in terms of over-under for season win totals?
Well, it's funny. We talked to a lot of bookmakers about that, and they didn't have an issue repricing the market. They use all these fancy algorithms to figure out what your win total should be based on your probabilities, how many games you're going to win over the course of the season. So there isn't any, intrinsic value right out of the gate. Now, that being said, if you feel like you have a strong, lean on a certain team, I always like to if I'm betting an over on a win total, I like to find teams that start fast because I know later I'll have some flexibility if I want to come off of that team because they're already off to a 2, 3, 4-0 start. And then I feel like I'm kind of ahead of the market. Vice versa, if you want to bet an under, you would prefer for that team to get off to a slow start. So I didn't see any differences in the way that the market was priced this year. I approached it the same as I always would. If I think a team's going to get off to a fast start, I look to the over and vice versa for the under.
And you know what, Chris, I want to chime in on this. it's very important. Everybody knows there's 17 games this season. I know all three of us know, and everybody laughs and stuff, okay? But I got a buddy who likes to bet on the games, and he's a big Steelers fan, and he said they're going 11-5 this year. That's what they're, and I bet him $1 million that the Steelers would not go 11-5 this year. I gave him 1,000,000,000 to 1 odds. I mean, there are people. Look, I don't know who's going to watch this show, right? Obviously, there's diehards, there's people that they follow it all year round. But there's a lot of people, and my buddies are like this. They really don't pay attention that much in the offseason. They really show up for week 1, but yet they still bet the games because Sunday afternoons or Sunday night, they want to be entertained. He's like, they're going to go 11-5. I know it. I'm like, okay, man. And finally, my other buddy on the text thread had to be like, yo, Ray, there's 17 games this year, dude.
He called him out by name.
Yeah, some people don't know. I mean, some people don't know. So it's very important before you do any season win totals or anything there's more games this year. Make sure you know that.
Hey, the least shocking part of that story is that your buddy was a Steelers fan. From Cleveland, Ohio can certainly attest to that. So there you go. All right, good. If you learned nothing else today from Pickswise Playbook, it's that there are 17 games this year. With that being said, people want to know, they love to play the futures, the over-under. So I'm going to let each of you go, and then I'll throw something out there. So, Ross, I'm going to start with you. Give me one team that you're really keeping your eye on.
Well, there's 2 overs I really like. I'll start with the team I don't cover, don't do their preseason games, and that's the Green Bay Packers. Confused on this one. Depending on where you shop, it can be 10, 10.5. I don't care which one it is. I like the over. I'm scratching my head here a little bit. They've won 13 games back-to-back years in a 16-game slate. In their division, Detroit is likely going to be terrible. Mm-hmm. The Bears are a mess right now at quarterback and the offensive line. The Vikings have had a rough preseason with Christian Darrisaw, the left tackle, the tight end, Irv Smith, out for the year. You're telling me the Packers aren't going to win 11 games? What are we talking about? Of course the Packers are going to win at least 11 games. I know their offensive line is a little young. Bakhtiari's on PUP. Don't care, okay? I know they have a new defensive coordinator. Personally, I thought that was a dumb move by LaFleur. The defense was playing well at the end of the year last year under Mike Pettin. They get rid of him to bring in Joe Barry, who's only ever coordinated horrible defenses. I still don't care. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are winning at least 11 games this year, over on the Packers.
But you know why? You know why? Because of all the drama. Because Aaron Rodgers was almost saying the answer is, and that's why. And he just came out right before the season started and said, well, I was 50-50 on coming back. So people
He's so full of it, Chris. Do you really believe that?
No, I don't. But
he was always going to play.
But you understand why the number is what the number is. That's why, because that stuff gets so played up. It was the huge narrative, right, Jared? I mean, isn't that why the number is either 10, 10.5?
I think so. And I agree with Ross's take on the rest of the division. And when you handicap win totals, the division has to play a factor because of the 17 games you play. 6 of them are against the divisional opponent. So I think that's an important factor. I'll be honest, when I watched every second of that press conference when Aaron came on, and I think Ross could speak to this too, Aaron looked like he was kind of at peace with everything around him. Like he kind of was like, okay, like I know I'm not going to have a huge impact on the roster changes, and I've got all these other things going on in my life, but I wanted to come back and play, and I agree. I didn't think there was any chance he was going to host.
I want to make one. Yeah, I want to make one point on that real quick.
Sure.
That actually, Aaron being at peace, is the only thing that gives me a little bit of pause or concern, because a year ago, Aaron was not at peace.
Yeah, he had the chip.
Aaron was ticked off. I don't know what we're allowed to say on this show. Yeah, it's the first show. Aaron was not happy, okay? He was ticked off, and he went out there and played like it. Now I look at Aaron, every picture of Aaron, he looks like a yoga instructor to me, okay?
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean he won't have a good year, but I guess I'm curious if he still has that chip on his shoulder, that FU mentality. I'll show you for drafting Jordan Love. He looks a little too zen to me right now.
So all three of us agree that 10, 10.5, whatever it is, it's going to be at least 11 for Green Bay there in the NFC North. By the way, our outstanding producer, Jack, said you can swear. I know it's not in the Ivy League upbringing.
Awesome.
You might
I try not to swear. I try to use a better word.
See the
That's
smart
the Ted
guy?
Lasso approach.
That is. Until they start putting up their middle finger in the middle of episodes. All right, give me one, Jared. What do you got?
I love the Niners over 10.5 wins. I think it's a buy low spot for them. They were brutal last year, but when you really look at who they were running out there every week, especially at quarterback, I give them a pass for a lot of their issues last year. They were one of the worst teams turnover margin in the NFL. That's a trend. That's a statistic that I tend to go opposite the following year because it's very volatile. And I'll be honest, I love what they did in the offseason. They know they need to keep Jimmy Garoppolo upright for this team to win. So what did they do? They went out, they drafted 2 guards in the second and third round, and they signed arguably the best center in the league, Alex Mack. I think the running game is going to be there, and I love the weapons. Hopefully we get a healthy George Kittle. Hopefully we get a healthy Nick Bosa. There's still a lot of that core intact from that team that went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. I think San Francisco is due for one of those positive regression years after last season.
So Jared might be right, Chris, but hopefully Jimmy Garoppolo's healthy and plays well. Hopefully Nick Bosa's back to 100%. Hopefully, George, you know what I don't like? I don't like betting on hopefully. I'm not a big hopefully guy. And I'll also say this, because there's a lot of Niners fans out there that are acting like, oh, they're going back to the Super Bowl because now they got everybody back. Well, first of all, they don't. DeForest Buckner plays in Indianapolis now. Secondly, when's the last time a team had a number 3 overall pick quarterback waiting in the wings, coming in for certain packages, short yard, and that team went on to win like 12 games, go to the Super Bowl. It just, I can't recollect it. That's an awkward situation. A little too much risk for me on the Niners.
Okay, it wasn't the same exact scenario, but the Ravens did it a few years ago with Lamar Jackson. And they pulled the trigger in about week 11. And Lamar Jackson took them. They went on a great regular season run. I know they lost in the first round of the playoffs against the Chargers, but they still had it working. And I think this is exactly the same situation, and it's why I actually like Jared's play here at over.
I think the injuries is, I agree. Injuries are incredibly difficult to handicap. I try not to put that too much into focus because if we tried to handicap injuries, these guys could get hurt, and we've seen it walking down the street, moving, dropping luggage on their foot. I think that's you're going to beat yourself up if you try to handicap every single injury in the NFL. And I think that Kinlaw kid in the middle is pretty good too. That replaced DeForest Buckner. He had a really good year last year. So I think there's a lot of positives for San Francisco, and I could poke some negatives in the rest of that division, especially the Rams. If Matt Stafford, you want to talk about injury concerns, is not fully healthy. We've already seen that thumb injury kind of peek its ugly head in preseason. So I think that NFC West, whoever wins that NFC West, is going to be battle tested. And they also got off to a great start. The Niners face the Eagles and the Lions, the Lions first, then the Eagles weeks 1 and 2. I expect them to be 2-0, and I like getting ahead of the market there with 2 wins.
Ross has never injured his foot while dropping luggage. He actually hires people to carry his luggage around. All right, quickly, give me another one, Ross.
I'm going over on the 6.5 on the Eagles. Now, people say, oh, you're a homer. I grew up outside of Philadelphia, and I do their preseason games on TV.
Homer!
Yeah, I don't care. Exactly. I don't care. I mean, look, a couple thoughts on the Eagles. Number one, their offensive line's healthy right now. It's a top 5 O-line in the NFL all day. Their D-line is a top 10 D-line, maybe even top 5 all day. They have 6 guys that I could see having 6 sacks or more. That's what wins in the NFL. It's a big part of it is O-line, D-line. Then let's go to quarterback. Last year, they had this guy named Carson Wentz, okay? He led the NFL in sacks and interceptions and didn't play the last 25% of the season. I mean, Jared, you're a numbers guy. Chris, you've done a lot of baseball stuff. That's like 40 baseball games, okay? Can you imagine a guy leading in statistics without playing 40-some games? Carson Wentz, if Jalen Hurts just throws, I don't know, 3 less picks, 5 less picks, takes 3 or 5 less sacks, that's probably 2 or 3 more wins right there. I think the Eagles are 7 on the low end, 10 on the high end. They probably finish with 8 or 9 wins. At any rate, it's over 6.5. I'd be very surprised if they don't hit the over.
What's the Gardner Minshew situation, though? Because we just talked about that with the Niners, and I know it's not the same where they drafted him, but does he kind of, peek his head into the conversation at all?
Highly unlikely. I really think, Jared, knowing the organization, he is there because he gives them an inexpensive minimum backup in 2022. So Flacco's $3.5 million guaranteed. Flacco will be done after this year. No matter what happens with the starter, they are now locked in to having a high-end backup for the minimum next year.
Makes sense.
All right. By the way, I think that number's so low because Nick Sirianni's opening day press conference when he became head coach set him back about 2 or 3 wins. I think everybody went,
what was worse, him or Gase with the eyeballs?
Let's profit from it, because who cares about a press conference? Let's profit from it. Hey. I did all the production meetings. I think that guy is awesome. Yeah, I get all the text messages from my buddy after his first press conference. Who cares? I mean, if press conferences meant anything, Bill Belichick wouldn't be one of the best coaches of all time. So who cares about Prescott? Let's win money off of – maybe Sirianni did it on purpose. Who knows?
All right, easy there, Bulldog. By the way, most of the public agrees with you. It's minus 150 to take over 6.5 wins. Give me one last one quickly, Jared. What do you got?
I think the Titans are going to win the AFC South. I feel good about eliminating the other 2 teams, the bottom 2 teams in that division, Houston and Jacksonville. So it's basically now I bet this before the Carson Wentz foot surgery and before the line moved to minus money. I got it at plus 110. I still would play it up to maybe minus 120 or minus 130 because you're basically saying that it's a coin flip between Indy and Tennessee. And I like what Tennessee did in the offseason. I like the fact that they addressed their secondary a little bit. I like the fact that they brought in Julio Jones to replace Corey Davis. Obviously, injuries in a vacuum. I think that's an upgrade. The one concern I have is Arthur Smith leaving, but they promoted from within, and they're keeping the same system with the tight end coach in place. The one other concern I have is a little bit of negative regression with Ryan Tannehill. But if the system and the running game and the offensive line continues on this track, I think Tannehill can continue what he's been, which is basically a resurgence in Tennessee. And I love the toughness in Mike Vrabel. I think he's a tougher coach than Frank Reich. And I think that division, if it comes down to 2 teams, I'll take the Titans at plus money.
Give it to me in 30 seconds. You like that play or not, Ross?
Oh, yeah, dude, the Titans are winning that division. I mean, the Colts are a mess right now. You want to talk about injuries and issues? Colts are a mess. I'd be surprised at this point if the Titans don't win that division. Totally agree.
Okay. I have one interesting one that I've been kicking around my head. The Steelers, they're at 8.5. Now, let's keep in mind, Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. And you go, well, Chris, at the beginning of the show, you guys told me there's 17 games. What's the halfway point of 17? 8.5. I get it. But still, their defense is top-notch. Excellent. And Big Ben will not be nearly as bad as he was the second half of the season a year ago. To me, that screams taking the over. Does it not, Jared?
What's the O-line situation? The O-line and the Watt situation
totally
are the 2 that scare me.
Totally new. The Watt situation doesn't scare me a bit. I don't. That'll play itself out.
Sure.
Watt is not missing any time, number one. The O-line is a concern early, but they'll only get better, and they weren't very good last year. It's hard to be much worse than they were last year.
It's true.
Mike Tomlin won 8 games with a guy named Duck at quarterback, okay? Yeah. He's not going to win that many with Roethlisberger at quarterback. I really like the over as well. They do have a very tough schedule. An easy schedule last year, tough schedule this year. That's a factor. But, Chris, that's a play for me as well. The Steelers over 8.5. I'm with you.
Yeah, and by the way, plus 110 on over 8.5.
It's not bad.
No. I mean, we're talking about trying to give you free money here.
Not bad at all.
All right, let's get into some individual plays. All right, these are fun ones because you go up and down, and week to week, you're like, oh, wait a second, that's going to kill my MVP pick, or there goes my offensive rookie of the year. But this is the great stuff. All right, so, Jerry, give me a good futures award to keep my eye on.
So there's 2. Well, actually, one of them's a coach. The other one's a player. I bought in early on Fields to win Rookie of the Year, and I think the handicap for me was I think week 1 after Andy Dalton has a disaster with the Rams, I think he'll be named the starter pretty quickly. And I know they've got problems on the offensive line, but if you ask me a quarterback that can maybe overcome some of that, it's Justin Fields. I thought he looked really poised early, and obviously you don't want to take too much of the preseason, playbook into account. But I think when it comes to poise and being able to command things, I felt really good about where Justin Fields' maturity was based on what I saw in preseason. And I think the rest of that market, listen, I know the move with Mac Jones, and I've got a fun way to play that instead of playing Mac Jones. But I'm kind of selling Trevor Lawrence a little bit. I don't think they're going to have a successful season. And I think because of the quarterback depth this year in the rookie class, you could basically look at only quarterbacks to win this award. And I think Zach Wilson is going to struggle a little bit in New York too. Very volatile season for him. So I think Justin Fields has some upside, and you're still getting a pretty decent number on him.
Well, you're getting plus 650. So yeah, it's interesting. But even Tom Brady called out Justin Fields in the preseason without mentioning his name. He's like, the quarterback play, like, I don't get it. We're not teaching. He's like, he talked about the play where Fields got hit right under the chin on a blitz. Yeah. He's like, you got to be able to see this. We're not teaching guys. And so maybe he's not ready. And that's why I would worry about that a little bit, is that Are they going to be so stubborn with sticking with Andy Dalton for the first month that Fields has that much ground to make up?
I don't know. And that's the concern.
You want to know why I think Dalton's playing? I think Dalton's going to play for a few weeks because I think that the Bears know their offensive line is horrific, and they think Dalton will do a better job of getting the ball out quickly. And or if the O-line really struggles, I think they'd rather have Andy Dalton get master blasted than Justin Fields. I'm not saying Andy Dalton's a sacrificial lamb. I'm just saying they know Andy Dalton at least will know where guys are coming from and get rid of the ball. I don't think they want Fields to go out there and get killed. I don't know when he's going to play, which is why I like Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones is the clear favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year. You know, the Jags and Jets won't be good enough.
No.
Trey Lance, I don't think will play enough.
Nope.
I think you're right, Jared. I think it's Fields who's got a better number, as you referenced, or Mac Jones. I just have a tough time thinking it won't be Mac Jones at this point based on what I saw in the preseason.
If you're going to play Jones, though, here's how I would do it. Because let's run through the narrative. Mac Jones wins Rookie of the Year. Patriots probably maybe make the playoffs. Bill Belichick's going to be the coach of the year, right? And you're getting that at a significantly longer number than you're getting Mac Jones right now. So that's a correlated bet that I think you can get a little more value on.
You're getting that at plus 1,900. What do you got, Ross?
Well, the only thing I would say about that is it's a decent possibility, Jared. But if they win 9 or 10 games, they're going to give it to a first-time head coach who makes the playoffs. It's going to be like Brandon Staley or Sirianni, a team that had a worse record last year. In other words, I don't think Belichick going from 7 wins last year to 9 or 10 this year is going to be able to beat out one of these first-time head coaches who I think has a chance to take their team to the playoffs. I like the correlated bet and the better number. I just think if one of these other guys makes the playoffs, like a Sirianni or a Staley or whatever, they're going to win it like Stefanski did last year.
Yep.
Well, you know what? It's a great point, I think, by both of you. I would agree with Jared if they go from 7 wins to 12 or 13, but they have to win the division.
They have to win the AFC.
They cannot let Buffalo win the division, or else it's not going to play in the national voting.
But even that, the Patriots to win the division are plus 350. So you rather take the plus 20 to 1, plus 2,000 with Belichick.
I think it's a great play. I got one that's interesting for you. MVP, Justin Herbert is plus 2,000. This is a guy that, what do you have to do to be an MVP these days? Like Patrick Mahomes is going to have to jump over a mountain that is so high because we've already seen that game. Aaron Rodgers just got his 3rd, so he can't duplicate what he did. He's got to be better than that. Justin Herbert was outstanding as a rookie, but they still only won 7 games. The year before that, they won 5 games. He has the ability, in my opinion, it's Kansas City, then it's 3 other teams in the West that are like, whatever. They could win 11, 12 games. Wouldn't shock me. And then all of a sudden he's in the MVP discussion in a serious tone.
Yeah, it goes back to the discussion, too, about the divisions, with the Patriots. The Chargers, to win the AFC West are 3-4 to 1. Justin Herbert to win Rookie of the Year or to win MVP is 20 to 1. So you would imagine those are, relatively correlated bets, too. So I'd rather have the 20 to 1 in my back pocket for sure.
Anything on the Super Bowl before we move on? Ross, you look like you want to say something.
Well, I was just going to say, I kind of like Josh Allen for the MVP, but your logic, Chris, is sound. And I think it was like right
did you
after.
Just compliment me?
Yes, I did.
I was waiting for that.
I think it was right after Tyrod Taylor got hurt last year. I was all in on Herbert for Offensive Rookie of the Year because he had a lot of the things going that gives you a chance to win that award.
Yeah, could be fun. Super Bowl, I don't know. I just think it's fun to throw this one out. Titans at plus 2,500. I always look for we just talked earlier in the show about how we all think that the Titans are going to waltz to a division crown. There's not a lot of teams you can say that about that you think are going to be, heck, they could be a 1 or a 2 seed because they could stockpile a bunch of wins this year. Then you get things going with that ground game. I know I don't love their defense, but I like the play. You guys are both rolling your eyes. Am I an idiot?
No, I don't think you're an idiot. I think the Titans are going to have – I think they're tough. I think they're tough. I'll give you – and I'm curious Ross's take on this because this is the one team that I am out on a limb on, and I tried to find a team that I think can make that Buffalo Bills third-year quarterback Josh Allen leap, and I kept gravitating back to the Cardinals and Kyler Murray. And is there a possibility that they make that leap and Kyler Murray takes that step forward? Because if so, their number is like 45-1 to win the Super Bowl. And that's a crazy number if they can win that division somehow.
So I'll just say this. I'm not a big Super Bowl futures guy.
I agree.
Because in all sincerity, I really only think there's about 5 teams that I think are legitimate Super Bowl contenders this year. And it'd be fun if the Cardinals or the Titans or whatever.
Yeah.
But and we'll talk about this throughout the year. But for me, it's the Bills, the Browns, and the Chiefs in the AFC.
I like the Browns.
The Bucs and the Packers in the NFC. I got to squint real hard to see anybody else I can really envision winning those playoff games again in the Super Bowl and representing the conference.
I like Cleveland a lot. I like what they did in the offseason, adding Clowney. And for the first time ever, they don't have that hype under Baker Mayfield. The hype's not there. They're kind of under the radar compared to some of the other teams.
I'm a Cleveland fan. Stop that right there. By the way, Ross, you said you're an idiot with the eye roll a few minutes ago. That's perfectly fine. I like
No. I was laughing because the way Jared said, no, I don't think you're an idiot. The way he said that, he might as well just put up a sign. Yes, I think you're an idiot. That was like the most passive aggressive. What I love about you, Jared, is I can already see right through you, dude.
Good.
I know exactly what you were thinking when you
play
said
some poker. Let's find out. Put your money where your mouth is there.
No, honey, you don't look fat in that dress. That was amazing.
Hey, guys, when we're sitting out here in mid-February covering Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry in the Super Bowl, and y'all are kissing my feet saying, boy, Rose, remember that in our first show when you were a genius? We're the idiots now. Strike that from the record if that doesn't happen. By the way. All right, first week strategy. It's all over the place, right? People are super excited. They're like, I've been craving this for 9 months. Get me to week 1. Jared, give me a 1-minute diatribe on, how to do this.
Do you have a dartboard handy? Try to hit those triple 20s, right? Or whatever those dart bullseyes are. No, I think with week 1, you have to isolate teams and coaching situations that you feel very confident with continuity. Last year, it was a little bit easier because COVID eliminated the entire preseason. So I kind of, moved away from any teams that had new quarterbacks, new coordinators, and had to go through a lot of off-season tumult. This year, with kind of a regular off-season, I think you can maybe target some of the teams that have newer head coaches that you feel confident will over-exceed their numbers early. I would put the guy in my backyard here, Robert Saleh, is one of those teams where I think the Jets are going to be so aggressive early in the year because of their head coach and because of their vibe that I think their totals are a little low because they're kind of thinking they might have a slower paced offense, but I think they're going to be all gas, no brakes. So I think week 1, you try to identify coaching and schemes that you feel confident about and try to identify some numbers that are wrong because it's really tough without anything last week to go off of.
And as we give you some week 1 predictions, yeah, Ross?
Well, the one point I wanted to make, was there's 2 different conversations in my mind. There's one conversation which is week 1s in general that Jared just hit on. Then there's a different conversation which is week 1 this year. And what I think it's different is crowds.
Good point.
There's going to be packed crowds. We saw in college football, I think it contributed to the scoring being lower. Georgia, Clemson, Penn State, Wisconsin. Crowds are good for the home team, bad for the away team, obviously, but also good for defense, bad for offense. So if you're looking for value in week 1, I would look at unders. I would look at home teams. We had a lot of success for away teams last year. Look, I've been there, okay? When you're in a silent count and there's 70,000 people screaming, and you got to look at the quarterback's foot, and it's a different deal. It's a different deal for the offensive tackles. It's one reason why I really like the unders in a lot of games week one. It'll be these guys' first time playing in front of packed houses in a couple years. I think it's going to have an impact on the games.
Great point.
There's one other note. You were talking about the change, whether it's under center or on the sidelines. For week one, there will be a dozen new quarterbacks, and I'm not counting like Tua and Herbert in that. Those are the guys that started at least half their team's games. I'm talking about guys who are in new uniforms from scratch. So you got 12 of those. You've got 7 new coaches, and then there are 4 teams, the Jets, Texans, Jags, and Lions, that have new both in terms of head coach and quarterback. So if you like that sort of information, you're looking again into space.
Jared. I got a trend for you. How about this? First, here, I want to make sure I read this so I don't mess it up. Quarterbacks making their first career start, 18-6 ATS over the last 2 years. So The books are wrong about those teams because maybe they don't know quite what they have to offer. So that is another thing to look at. Also, home teams, Ross is spot on. Home teams week one, home divisional teams, right. Home underdogs. That's the week one trends that have 10. Now, I know historical trends, not the same situations, not apples to apples, but that's something to take a look at.
Okay, so everybody that's listening is saying, okay, you knuckleheads, you've given us the theory. Now give me some winners this week. So, Ross, let's fly through a few of these kind of at a good pace here. Go for it.
Yeah, so you'll see throughout the show, I am not big on laying points. I think it's probably the former player in me, right, that I've just been a favorite too many times and lost and been underdog too many times and won. I like the points. So most of my plays will be underdogs. I think have a really good chance to win. Let's start with Philadelphia. I mean, I said earlier, I like the over on the season win total. They're catching 3 against the Atlanta Falcons. I think they're much better up front on both sides of the ball. I think they have a great chance to win the game outright. Obviously, Arthur Smith's the new head coach in Atlanta as well, so there's a little bit of an unknown. Atlanta looks really bad in the preseason. I'm not saying the Eagles look great, but I think the Eagles have a great chance to go to Atlanta and get the win. I like the Eagles getting the 3 points a lot.
Okay. What else?
I'll take your Browns, Chris. Chris is from Cleveland, loves the Browns. I like the Browns getting the points against the Chiefs at 6 or 6.5, depending on where you're looking. We all know how good the Chiefs are, right? They have rookies starting at center, right guard, and right tackle. That's a lot, man. I mean, and they all look like they might be good players, but that's a lot. If you're going to play the Chiefs this year, you want to play them early. Mm-hmm. The Browns obviously have a good D-line with Myles Garrett. They got Clowney now. And I think they're going to be able to show the right side of the Chiefs offensive line some things, some stunts, some blitzes. There will be some mental errors. There will be some miscommunication amongst those young guys. I think the Browns take advantage of it. I don't know if they win the game, but I think they cover.
Okay. You good with that stuff so far, Jared?
I mean, I can't fault taking a team that went into Kansas City last year and almost beat them in the playoffs without a lot of issue. There were a lot of issues in that game for Cleveland, but they still overcame it. They overcame it the prior week when they didn't have their head coach against Pittsburgh. So I think Cleveland's a really tough team. I don't have any issues there. It's funny. We keep talking about home teams and underdogs. One of my favorite plays of the week is actually a road favorite, but there's some reasoning behind it. So we talked to one of the odds makers at PointsBet, and he said that if Aaron Rodgers would have signed with the Denver Broncos, they would have made Denver the 3rd favorite to win the Super Bowl. That's how good Denver's roster is, minus their quarterback, obviously. And I think they get a kind of I don't want to say a cupcake spot, but the Giants have a ton of problems. And I do not trust Daniel Jones and that offensive line against what I think is one of the best front sevens in the NFL. And the Denver Broncos come into what historically is a pretty timid home field at MetLife Stadium. I've been to a bunch of Jets and Giants games there, especially early in the year with not a lot of excitement. I don't expect there to be a ton of buzz in that stadium week one. And I think Denver could go in there and just absolutely, just like a boa constrictor with Daniel Jones up front and just really make life difficult for him. So I really like the Broncos week one going into MetLife and beating the Giants, covering the 2.5.
Wow. And by the way, I think somebody just put out a new line over under how many minutes it takes for Jared to get his ass kicked the next time he shows up at MetLife after comments like that. That's
so.
unbelievable.
You know what I noticed? You know what I learned, Chris, already? And maybe the green screen behind him should have given it away. Jared is a Jets fan. You are, aren't you, Jared?
It's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
You're a Jets fan because I can sense the Giants hater in you. Not only do you think the Giants are a disaster,
I do.
You went out of your way to take a shot at Giants fans too.
The Jets fans are the
incredible.
same. That stadium is a tombstone when the Jets and the Giants are struggling. It is not a great home field environment. It is not.
You know what? It's funny you say that because I've done a bunch of games there. It's not like the Meadowlands used to be. It just feels like it just doesn't feel
it's
like
sterile. It's
it is. It doesn't feel like the same type of, and maybe it's because the teams haven't been good, but it doesn't feel like the same type of home field edge.
I agree.
Okay. All right. You got another special for us. You got Denver on the road laying points.
This one is going to be an unpopular one, and I've gone back and forth on this game a lot, but the movement off of 3 to 2.5 is starting to give me inklings that the Texans might have something at home this Sunday. Tyrod Taylor's, he's played in some pretty big games before, and Trevor Lawrence is not, at least not in the NFL. And I didn't, and at first I thought the bookmakers were trying to tell us something here because Jacksonville, with a rookie quarterback and a rookie NFL head coach, was laying points on the road week 1 in a divisional game. And I was like, wait a minute, they are begging us to bet the Texans. But the more I look into what Houston's kind of, I don't want to say galvanized, but they've kind of, I want to say they're going to give you their best effort week 1. I think things are going to go south from there, but I think this is a spot week 1 where everybody's going to fade Houston because the narrative all offseason has been Deshaun Watson this and they stink that. And I think you're getting a team in a divisional game at home catching points. I think that's where I'm going to lean week 1. So I think I'm going to take it with I'll hold my nose when I do it, but I think I'm going to bet the Texans week 1.
I like both of Jared's plays. I like the Texans quite a bit. I don't like what I'm seeing from the Jags at all. I think Urban Meyer is going to learn a few lessons in the NFL. And, the Texans signed a lot of vets, a lot of prideful vets. And I do think that they know everybody thinks they're going to stink. And the whole Deshaun Watson situation, I'd like to think they'll rally around that. The only thing that gives me a little pause is that this week they traded Bradley Roby to the Saints. I don't like that message being sent to the locker room right before the first game.
I did it with Shaq Lawson,
hey guys,
too.
Good luck this season. Good luck. We just traded one of our starting corners.
Yeah.
I think they're going to run the ball 45 times. I mean, they brought in every running back approaching the age of 30, if he's not already there, to compete. Say, all right, everybody's going to get 12 carries this week. You're all going to be happy, and we're all going to win. We're all going to win like 21-17. It'll be fascinating.
Tyrod Taylor's got something to prove. He had a weird situation last year with the
Wait a second.
the
He's
rib
had something
thing.
to prove his entire career.
It's true.
The same thing happened to him in Cleveland. Hugh Jackson was like, dude, you're our guy. Guy gets knocked out of the Jets game. Baker comes in. He's like,
bye-bye.
You can still be my guy, but you got to stand next to me now, bro. So
but the rib thing's weird, right? That's a weird way to end the Chargers thing.
One.
That was weird.
You know who I want to be? I want to be the young quarterback that eventually takes over for Tyrod Taylor in Houston, whether it's Davis Mills or someone else. When he was in Buffalo, Josh Allen came in. He's awesome. When he was in Cleveland, Baker Mayfield came in. He's pretty good. When he was with the Chargers, Justin Herbert came in. Mm-hmm. I think that's why the Texans signed Tyrod Taylor, because he is the fountain of finding the youth quarterback that you really need. Whoever they bench Tyrod for ends up being a stud.
He is the lucky rabbit's foot around here in the NFL.
Girl you date before you meet your wife, right?
Okay, now we're getting into dangerous territory there, Giants hater. All right, Ross, give me another one for week 1.
Let's get to a it's good, by the way, Jared, the two you picked I had as well, so I like that. Let's do a total. Are we waiting for are we doing the primetime games later? Can I do it now?
You go wherever you want.
Let's do a total for the Ravens and the Raiders Monday night. Really like the under in that game. I mean, really like the under. Right now it's at 51. So first of all, the Raiders have a revamped center, right guard, right tackle. The Ravens defense does not mess around. Okay. Like Calais Campbell. They bring in Justin Houston, Brandon Williams, Derek Wolfe. Now they got Adafe Owe from Penn State. It might be the fastest defensive lineman ever. And I think Wink Martindale is going to know how to deploy him. I don't see the Raiders scoring a ton of points in that game. The Ravens are going to – I know they have some running back issues, but they got some wide receiver issues too. They're going to have to run the ball, shorten the game. Lamar Jackson hasn't gotten any reps with his starting receivers. Bateman's out. Hollywood Brown's been in and out. Sammy Watkins in and out. Lamar was out with COVID. I just don't see how this game hits the over. I really like the under in the Raiders and the Ravens Monday night. That's my play for the Monday nighter.
I love that. It's a primetime game. Everyone's going to want to bet the over too. So that's to me the way to go against that.
Hey, Jerry, one thing I always think about when, contemplating over-under, teams that run the ball, clock is running, less time in the game. Is that a factor, or am I an idiot to overthink it?
There's actually, this is so funny. I had one of the most intense debates I've ever had with a very respected pro bettor about this. I think teams that run the ball really well, I think I lean now, not necessarily that particular game, but in general, I lean over because here's why. What do teams not do well that can't run the ball? They can't score in the red zone because the windows tighten up and you settle for more field goals. Okay. Teams that run the ball really well tend to turn 3 into 6, and that's how you hit an over. Field goals are the death of overs in the NFL. If you can convert in the red zone, and teams that run the ball tend to have better red zone conversion percentages, that's how you convert overs as well.
Yeah. By the way, you were talking, Ross, about the Ravens' lack of depth right now at running back. What sort of futures play could you have gotten 3 years ago on Le'Veon Bell being signed to a practice squad?
And the Ravens practice squad.
The Ravens practice squad.
How great would that number have been?
Oh, man. Well, if he would have told me that he would turn down more money from the Steelers to take ultimately less money from the Jets, if he just let me know that that's what he was thinking, maybe I could have done it.
Okay, Jared, what do you got?
I think I'm going to lay it with the Pats. And I think when you look at this New England team, last year was a total disaster. They were arguably I think they were the worst defense in the NFL last year, at least in some of the metrics. But go look at that box score week 1 against the Dolphins. It was like classic New England defense, totally shutting down anything Fitzpatrick had to offer. And I noticed this today. I don't know if maybe I misread this. Did the Dolphins not name Tua a captain? That was a little unique for me. That's rare, right, in the NFL ranks to not name your quarterback a captain. I might have misread the tags on Twitter that the Dolphins had. I just saw it before we did the show, but I thought that was a little unique for me. And I think New England, to me, if they're comfortable enough to name Mac Jones the starter week 1, then Bill Belichick feels like he's got something. And they're at home laying less than a field goal against a divisional opponent. I feel like that's a pretty decent spot to fire away on New England.
I like that. I think that's cool. And Ross, you've got the under in that game.
I do. I just think two coaching staffs that know each other very well. I think two really good defenses. And Mac Jones looked good in the preseason, but he's still a rookie. And the jury is way out on Tua Tagovailoa. So I know it's a really low number at 44, but it feels like a 20-17 type of game to me. So I like the under on that one.
Okay. All right. Any other play that you like in particular before we wrap week 1 and maybe hit a Sunday nighter? Jared, Ross?
I'm leaning Bills at home against the Steelers, but I think it's a little too high. I'd rather have it at 4 or 4.5. I think you're getting close to 7 now, which I think it's getting to a point where I'd probably stay away. But I think Josh Allen is going to have a big year. And I don't think there's a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL that have his skill set. And if he can figure out that dynamic, when to tuck it and run and when to throw it deep, they have to commit to the box for his running game. And he's such a great deep ball thrower. I could continue to see his progression getting better. It's going to be hard for them to be as good as they were last year, but I don't see Josh Allen taking a step back. There might be some other things that go against Buffalo this year because everything broke right for them. But to me, Josh Allen's the real deal. I think Pittsburgh is going to take some time with that new look offensive line to kind of get settled in. And Buffalo's defense has been pretty good, especially with Sean McDermott as head coach. So I think Buffalo might be able to cover that number, but I think that's a better teaser game to get them down to maybe a pick 'em.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said teaser because, Chris, that's where I'm going with Sunday night and tonight. The first two primetime games, I love teasing the Bucks from 8.5 down to 2.5. Pair that with the Rams, 7.5 down to 1.5. To me, that's a no-brainer, 2-team, 6-point teaser, primetime special to kick off the season, because I hate laying 7.5. I hate laying 8. I just don't do it. You got to tease it. I think we all feel pretty good that the Bucs and the Rams will win those games. Now, maybe there could be a backdoor cover by the Cowboys or the Bears, probably more likely the Cowboys. But you tease them down, man, I'd be surprised if either one of those teams didn't cover the 1.5 and the 2.5. That's what I'm doing with the first two first two primetime games.
I'll throw the Niners as another teaser opportunity in there because I just see them pummeling Detroit early. I think Detroit's going to struggle early in the year. So I think the Niners a teaser spot as well. That can be pretty lucrative.
And of course, the 2021 season gets underway tonight with the defending Super Bowl champions opening up their doors and saying, America's team, come on in. We've been waiting for you. I want to ask one theory question before we start getting to some bets. Ross, does it matter to you? Is it overplayed or underplayed that the Bucs are returning all 22 starters on offense and defense?
Probably underplayed. Yeah, I think it's a really big deal. I think continuity matters. I think familiarity matters. You know, I can speak to that in the offensive line. So nice when you've spent a lot of time with the guys on either side of you that you're working with. Makes a huge difference. You know, pro football is about attention to detail and certainly talent and all that stuff. But you can have greater detail and greater precision, and you can evolve on offense and defense the more time you're in the system, the more time you're with the other people. I think it's a huge advantage for the Bucs. I know people that think the Bucs are going to be like a 16-1 team. I think people really believe the Bucs have a chance to have an all-time season.
Motivation's the one thing early for me, Ross, and maybe you can speak to this too. Is there a slower buildup, almost like a great baseball team, like a 98, 99 Yankees that maybe struggled out of the gate? I remember the 98 Yankees that ended up winning all those games. They struggled coming out of the gate because they had a little bit of that success, and you know they need to keep a little bit left in the tank for January and February. That's the one concern I have with the Bucs early in the year, and also why the win total scares me a little bit, because I don't know if they're going to be full go right out of the gate week one.
So you're a Jets fan, but you're a Yankees fan?
I'm weird. We can get into this off camera.
I knew it, though.
I'm weird.
You're supposed to be Mets and Jets.
No.
You can't cross over. I knew it, though. You wouldn't have referenced the late 90s Yankees unless they have still have Jeter up in your room there on the side of the wall.
He gave a Hall of Fame speech yesterday. It was great. I had tears in my eyes. I was crying all day.
Ross, one other thing. Zach Martin, no go. Now, Jared can tell us, offensive linemen do not move the line. If you know they move the line physically when they're playing, right? They move the defensive line. But do they move? They don't move the betting line, even a great Pro Bowl guard like Zach Martin.
Maybe a half a point, but quarterbacks really are the only, maybe, or like a star running back receiver, Saquon Barkley missing a game, when he's expected to play, or, maybe not even a running back. Receivers maybe more so. But quarterbacks really the only line moving event.
So I'm not saying it's because of Zach Martin, but the line was 8 and the total was 52. And now the line is 8.5 and the total is 51.5. So the line moved that, and that's probably more because of the money that came in on it than it is Zach Martin. But I would take your comment, Chris, and I would use that to our advantage, which is a guy like Zach Martin doesn't move the line, but it changes the situation a little bit. He's like the best guard in football going against a very good Bucs defensive line. So I hope it doesn't change the line so I can profit from the line not moving, even though the Cowboys lose one of their best players. I really think the play here, other than the teaser I gave out earlier, it's the under. The Bucs defense is really good. Cowboys, the health of Prescott, Amari Cooper, they say they're 100%. We'll see. We'll watch tonight. But La'el Collins is having stingers, takes one shot. He might be out of the game. I just think the Cowboys are going to have a tough time scoring a lot of points. I also think while the Bucs will put up plenty of points, Dan Quinn, new D coordinator in Dallas, Micah Parsons, I think, has a great chance to be the defensive rookie of the year in the NFL. I like the under in this game.
I agree with Ross. I think, and again, it speaks to the Bucs starting. The Bucs know that they're going to be there at the end of the year, and if you would have maybe watched mid-season, you would have bailed on the Bucs after that. What was it, 45 to whatever drubbing by?
It was Brady's worst loss ever.
Yeah, and so I think that's the vibe I get with Tampa Bay. Not that the talent's not there, but I think they know that they need a little bit extra in January and February because they, unlike last year early, they've got a big crosshair on their back. And Dallas, what are we getting from Dak? How aggressive are they going to be early in the year? And that's another question I have. So I'm definitely with Ross. I would say first quarter under, first half under, or just bet the full game under.
But isn't that the biggest question we've got here? It's really all about Dak. When we're talking, I don't know if any of us feel like Dallas can win the game, but the question is, can they cover it? And we haven't seen Dak since week 5 in the 2020 season, right? We didn't see him this year because he had a shoulder issue. I have no idea what Dallas's most important player is bringing to the table. Doesn't that scare the hell out of you if you're
absolutely
Ross?
You know what I do know? He's not going to be better than he was last year, the year before that, coming off the broken ankle and the injured shoulder. Like, we're not going to be like, wow, maybe more guys should get totally repaired broken ankles and shoulder injuries. He's so much better now. This isn't Tommy John surgery for a pitcher, okay, where they come out throwing 4 miles an hour. It doesn't work that way. He's not going to be better. The question is he even close to as good?
Even before he got hurt, he was 0-5 against the spread as a starter going into that year until he got hurt. So that it wasn't like they were guns a-blazing even with Dak, before the injury happened. So I'd be concerned with Dallas's offense. I would.
Do you like any individual plays? And Thursday night, opening the season, people are hungry to do something. And I'll stay with the quarterbacks because they're far and away the two biggest stars in this game. Tom Brady, the number has been fluctuating right around 300 passing yards on that opener. For Dak, who, mind you, through the first 4 weeks of the season a year ago, had the most passing yards ever through the first 4 weeks of the season, it's been under 290 consistently, even though he's got a really good and deep receiver crew. Either of those catch your eye, Jared?
I would lean over on Dak because you would think they're going to be behind in the game, and game flow would dictate that they're going to be throwing the ball. And especially when the total is as high as it is, the books do think there is going to be some points in this game, even though we are both leaning to the under. So I would lean over with the lower total there. I have Tom Brady. It's like Bill Belichick is with running backs. You don't know what the strategy is. The Dallas defense might give them a front where they are just running the ball all day. And we don't know that until we watch the game. Some books offer live props. That's intriguing to me. All of a sudden, if Dallas is stuffing the line of scrimmage and Brady's got to throw it, then you might go live over, or vice versa. If they're playing a shell zone and they've got to run the ball to have some success, then you live under. But the quarterback situation in Tampa Bay, Tom Brady takes what the defense gives him, and that's why he's a very difficult player to bet on in the prop market.
Ross?
I'm not as big a prop guy as Jared. I will just say two things. He's right about Dak having to throw the ball a lot because I'd be surprised if the Bucs don't have the lead.
Yeah.
And Brady doesn't care about individual statistics at all. Not even. I mean, I played with him in 05 and 06, not even a little bit. And a lot of quarterbacks say that, but they really want to throw for touchdowns and throw for yards. He would hand the ball off every single play if it guaranteed that they would win the game. That's the only thing he cares about.
Yep. God, he's the Derek Jeter of NFL. I mean, he doesn't care about his individual stats at all.
God, have something wrong with you, Brady.
Dude, he's also the best beer chugger I've ever seen. And I have either participated in or witnessed over 1,000 beer chugs. And he's the best I've ever seen. I remember calling my wife and being like, this guy has every positive male quality known to man.
Hey, he lost some Super Bowls.
Cleans.
He lost some Super Bowls. Wasn't perfect.
To Nick Foles and Eli Manning. Jared's favorite guy.
Love Eli.
Guys, this was a blast. Hopefully everybody got informed, learned a little bit, took some notes. You can go back and recheck everything that we talked about and make sure that we got 100% right. Don't do that. But we hope to help you win. And that's the big thing here at Pickswise Playbook is that we want to have fun, but we want to make sure that you're on the winning side of this. And that's what's happening. So, guys, I assume we'll see you next time because, as always, I'm going to be joined by Jared Smith. And then occasionally, I suppose Ross Tucker will drop in with a bigger flex.
Hopefully, if I don't get fired by next week.
We'll let you know right after this is done. I am Chris Rose. We will see you next time here on Pickswise Playbook.